And we're joined now by Democrat Charles Booker, of course, a candidate for U.S. Senate here in Kentucky. Charles has been a part of our Senate candidate forum. We've talked to him many times, but Charles, the first time we're getting you into the Plus studio to have kind of a longer forum interview, so we appreciate you taking the time.
Honored, man, always.
So the state of this race right now, we're just a few days away from this primary, and at last check, the last available poll, at least the independent polls, I think it was April 2nd, Emerson College polling puts you at 36%, leading the way amongst Democrats. The next candidate is Amy McGrath at 18%. What do you take away from that, and do you believe the lead is that wide in reality here in this race?
I'm honored. I'm honored to see the support growing, not just through the data in polling, but on the ground. People are tired of the status quo. They're looking for real change, and they're looking for leadership that can stand up for us. And they see in me a steadfast voice that has been on the front line for them. And I'm honored to have earned that trust, and I'm proud of it. And what I know is that the lead is growing. The momentum is growing. We're seeing big endorsements from grassroots organizations like Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, a big endorsement today from Our Revolution, a nationwide endorsement. We're seeing a lot of support coming in because people know what this moment means, and we need change. We need someone who's going to fight to make life more affordable. We need someone who's going to fight to end generational poverty and stand up to the corruption in Washington. And I'll be that senator for Kentucky.
I know you received an endorsement from former Congressman John Yarmuth of Louisville. He's somebody who many people know, used to represent the 3rd District for a long time. Talk to me about what you told him when convincing him, hey, support me. I know it's my 3rd run. And you told some folks over in Lexington, I think a few months back, you're like, call me crazy, I'm running a 3rd time. What did you tell him to convince him for that endorsement this time around? Like, listen, this time is different.
Yeah, Congressman John Yarmuth is like a political hero to me. The chance to work with him and to learn from him is really a big part of why I believed I could do this. Seeing him speak the truth, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it might bring him some heat, let me know that it's possible to have voices in Washington that aren't afraid to stand up for Kentuckians. And his endorsement is a big deal. He's one of the smartest folks who've served in Congress. I mean, I'm telling you, you sit and listen to the way he talks through policy, the relationships he's built. He knows what he's talking about, and so his endorsement is a strong stamp of approval. And, really what I told him is this campaign is something special, and it's a moment we can't miss. Running for a 3rd time it's surreal to even say that I'm running for a 3rd time, but it's something that is so powerful because it is the culmination of organizing, the culmination of faith in action. We have made history time and time again, and we've built infrastructure rooted in a message that centers working people, that is unafraid of talking about structural racism, unafraid of calling out hate and bigotry, but calling in everybody from all backgrounds. This isn't about being progressive. It's about standing up for Kentuckians. And he saw that. He sees it. And as he explained, as a grandfather, he knows that he has an obligation to fight for the future. And he sees my campaign as the best way to do it.
I want to touch on something you told the crowd in Lexington for a campaign stop. You had mentioned Mitch McConnell, and you had said you had taken a page out of his playbook as far as the infrastructure building. Yeah. But you also, at the same time, called him the Grim Reaper. So clearly you're not a fan of Mitch McConnell, but there is something about his ability to be able to, like you said, build infrastructure politically that you've actually sort of taken notes about. Walk me through what that means.
Oh, yeah. I took notes from Trump, too. And sure, there's a lot I don't agree with him on. Mitch McConnell is as terrible as I've named. There's more choice words because he has built a career and has built infrastructure that could have really made life better for Kentuckians. We wouldn't have a Donald Trump if it weren't for Mitch McConnell. We wouldn't have the majority of the mess we have now, the endless wars, the tax cuts for billionaires. We wouldn't have a lot of the issues that regular Kentuckians are fighting through if it weren't for Mitch McConnell, the Supreme Court. The list goes on. But we got to take note because as a political student, what he has been able to do representing Kentucky or misrepresenting Kentucky is take a platform and build the type of infrastructure that has transformed Kentucky politics, but also transformed the country. And what I'm saying is We need to understand what it means to build coalitions, what it means to drive resources to the ground, what it means to not ignore communities, counties, and folks who have felt left behind, and intentionally bring people together. He did that over the years. Now, he's forgotten about Kentucky. But if we do that now, rooted in love, rooted in democracy, rooted in lifting up the voices of regular people, we can build the infrastructure that can end generational poverty, that can make democracy real.
When Mitch McConnell first ran for U.S. Senate, Kentucky was very blue in many ways. It was a Democratic stronghold, federally, state, local, you name it. In the mid-'80s, he was considered, in many ways, a long shot. And he sort of beat the odds and then grew the Republican Party from there. Now let's fast forward here to 2026, right? You are considered, as a Democrat, probably it's the reverse, a long shot to win this race, depending on who you talk to. Some folks might poll it closer. How do you envision Kentucky replacing a Mitch McConnell with a progressive Democrat?
Well, you just named it. In a lot of ways, the Mitch McConnell back when I was born would probably be called a progressive today. He has forgotten his way, and he sold us out a long time ago. He decided to get rich. He decided to hoard political power. But the tenets of what he has done in terms of building infrastructure, as you mentioned, being a long shot then, back then he showed courage going against the status quo. And then he took the time to go into communities across Kentucky to engage folks who had been ignored, and then drove resources to communities. All of that stuff matters. We just need leaders who won't do it to hoard power for themselves and to sell us out for corporations. And so this will be a poetic continuation of a truth that when you actually go into communities and build relationships and you build infrastructure rooted in the people, you can win. And again, this is why I took notes from Donald Trump. Donald Trump spoke to folks across Kentucky who felt ignored, who felt exploited by the swamp, who have been struggling to get by, who lost their jobs, who were struggling to afford their medicine. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I know that story. But he used that pain and weaponized wedges to drive people apart. We can tap into the power of our pain to build coalitions to change things too. We need that leadership now. No more status quo, because people are hurting.
I've spoken with Dale Romans, who sat in that seat there just a few weeks ago, and he's of the mindset as a Democrat that, you have to go to Congress, you have to go to Capitol Hill with an idea that compromise needs to happen to get things done. You come more from the mindset of, why should we just accept that compromise or doing a little in 4, 6, 8 years is all we can do? Why not shoot for something that maybe some say are radical or not going to happen? It's not possible. There isn't enough support for that. Speak to that to voters who might be going to the polls. Is how do you bridge that gap between what's possible but also stretching the boundaries and pushing the envelope?
Donald Trump and his co-conspirators, his accomplices in Congress, are tearing up the Constitution. They are setting democracy on fire. We just saw the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. They're trying to take away democracy in our faces, cutting resources that we need to survive, sending us into endless war. There is no compromise with that. So we need leaders who understand we have to have a bold vision now to change the status quo, not go in there and try to play childish games with them and just hope they treat us nicely. Donald Trump has shown there is no bottom. So I think a vision or an approach that would say we need compromise with what's happening right now is disconnected from what Kentuckians are really facing and why so many Kentuckians have organized in No Kings demonstrations across the Commonwealth of all political backgrounds. So what I understand is we need leadership with a vision to meet the needs that we face, the courage to change the status quo, and the audacity to hold Trump and that administration accountable. Trump needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed and he needs to be arrested. And we shouldn't be mincing words about that. And any politician who would fund endless war, fund genocide, and not fund health care in the United States needs to go. Now, at the same time, I am a coalition builder. I think that's why God put me here. I think we all have so much more in common than anything that can divide us. And I've worked across the aisle. I've worked with hardcore Trump supporters. I've worked with people who don't trust politicians at all, because I don't either. And what I know is when you treat people like they matter, you show up and speak your truth. but you look for those common bonds, you'll find chances to build. So I intend to go to Washington to get things done, but I'm not going to compromise on fighting for the people of Kentucky. If you're ready to work for the people of Kentucky, you'll find a partner in me. But if you're going to protect the Epstein class, you got to go.
How do you feel Democrats on Capitol Hill are digging their heels in and standing their ground as of late? Do you agree with the strategy they've taken by and large, or do you believe there's something else that needs to be done if you were there, per se?
You know, there is a critical need to resist and stand up against what's happening now. Every single day, there's breaking news about how we're being made less safe, sicker, how our voices are being silenced, how the notion that diversity is evil, and how hate and fear is being weaponized. And we got to stand against that. But standing against it isn't enough. And I think it's one of the things that sets me apart in this race, that this isn't just about calling out what's wrong right now. Yeah, I'm angry about what's happening right now. But beyond being angry about what Trump and people like Mitch McConnell are doing, I'm inspired to fight for the people of Kentucky because I know we are the change. And we were hurting before Donald Trump. So we need leadership that can not only stand up to what's happening now, but cast a vision about how does life get better for us so that water is clean and our utilities aren't crushing us and internet's not crap and folks have enough money in their pocket to go on vacation, or when our children are out in the streets or going to school, they're safe. Or when people choose to practice faith, they're safe. And when folks are working, they're not wondering if ICE is going to snatch them up and take them somewhere because they don't look a certain way. We need leadership right now, not excuses. And that's why me offering solutions is resonating with the people of Kentucky, because I'm standing up for Medicare for all. I'm standing up to abolish ICE. I'm standing up to say we need true living wages and that we have to get big money out of politics. We got to end Citizens United. People are looking for that type of leadership right now, and that's why I'm leading in all the polls.
Are we seeing a sea change nationwide? I don't know how closely you've been paying attention to what happened in Maine, right? You had the governor there who was considered sort of the Democratic establishment handpicked candidate, and she dropped out. The progressive candidate in this race, the more progressive candidate, Graham Plattner, I believe is his name, endorsed by Bernie Sanders and others, pretty much held too much of a I guess you should say was leading in a lot of polls. What does that represent for the greater country, including here in Kentucky?
It tells a story that a lot of people are, not only are they hurting, but they know what's happening. And they know we can't just do more of the same. In Kentucky, one thing is very true. And a lot of people will say, well, Charles, how do you win in a place like Kentucky? We have an Andy Beshear and a Rand Paul. We cover the spectrum. A lot of folks who voted for Donald Trump voted for Bernie Sanders. People here are looking for someone who would have the audacity to actually fight for them, to stand up to big money greed, to stand up to corruption, and actually prioritize our families. And I've been able to reflect that over the years. And it's why so many people have thrown their support behind us, why people who voted for Trump are organizing with my campaign. It's why we're poised to win.
I want to touch on redistricting a little bit. You know, you had mentioned that the Voting Rights Act and the Supreme Court ruling on Section 2 having wide implications. You're seeing states like Tennessee already pass to basically reshape that Memphis district to get that to 9-0 in the state of Tennessee. Kentucky, leadership so far has said, we don't think it's a good idea, but we know that this White House is going to continue to see what's out there. They've made that very clear. What are your thoughts? I mean, do Democrats continue to have to fire back in the way of doing their own gerrymandering, like Virginia, like California? Is that the play right now as we get closer to midterms?
I think we have to cover all of our bases. We are fighting for our survival in this country. We're fighting for the idea of democracy. We're fighting for humanity. And Donald Trump has made it clear they're going to hold no punches, even if it means deploying ICE to make it harder for people to vote, gutting the Voting Rights Act, trying to make it harder for women to be able to vote. We know what we're up against. And I do believe that not only should we engage in earnest and try to protect our hopes for this future, which include lifting up democracy. We saw that in Virginia. The voices of the people spoke in their aim to address their districts. And we're seeing the response through political will of people who cower to Trump to disregard the voices of the people. But I've served in the state house and worked with coalitions over the years. We know we have to end partisan gerrymandering. This should be done in a way that earnestly lifts up the voices of the people, but we have to be cognizant of the times we're in. The attack on the Voting Rights Act is not simply about erasing black representation. It's about making it harder for communities that are marginalized to be heard. It's about making it harder for the majority of us to be able to organize and be accounted for in government and actually change things. They're trying to stamp and trample on democracy, and we have to have the courage to fight back right now.
Just a few more questions here. I want to talk about, Amy McGrath, who's somebody who you've faced in the past. And she, to her credit, has been traveling all over Kentucky, including many Republican stronghold counties. From what I've seen, you've had a much more Lexington, Louisville, Franklin County focus. Just walk me through internally your guys' campaign. What do you know this time around compared to your last two races about where to go? Because it seems like you guys know where your Democratic support is.
Well, we've been all over Kentucky. It's been interesting this time around because the media doesn't really want to cover our race. We'll put out I'm glad to be here, brother, and I appreciate you.
Sure.
But we've put out releases about the work we've done out in the state, and it gets no coverage. I think because so many people concede the idea that a Republican is going to win, that all the focus sort of just goes to the Republicans running, and we're going to beat whoever comes out of their primary. And then, of course, Amy McGrath was running a campaign in 2020 that we nearly beat with people power, but raised nearly $100 million. So people see the big money and have followed her. We've been working, even when the cameras weren't there. And my message and my approach is the same. From the hood to the holler, we speak to the people who get ignored. We show up in the places that feel forgotten about. And this has been an interesting experience in this primary of trying to build as the front runner and the underdog at the same time. But we've been able to inspire a lot of support, even when the cameras weren't around. And by the time the cameras are showing, they'll see our victory.
I want to touch on what you just said, because you're right. There are a lot of folks out there, including political reporters, who are essentially, the understanding is, if someone comes out of the Republican primary, not only are they the favorite, there are some who, to your point, they think it's a foregone conclusion they are going to win. What do you say to those folks? What do you know that they don't to convince them that if you were elected the Democratic nominee, that is not the case, that the GOP primary is not essentially the general?
I would ask them, are they tired of being wrong? Are they tired of ignoring the people of Kentucky? Let's think back, because I know memories can be short. When Donald Trump was first running for president, people laughed at him. He was in a crowded field, and he was speaking to issues that no one was talking about. Now, he was going to exploit them, but he was talking about them. And he was in the low single digits. And he was laughed at by all the pundits. And we see what happened. We're building something that is not conventional. We're creating a new map in Kentucky. And even though the data is catching up to what we're doing, there's still a bit of cynicism in, no, it is impossible. Charles is black. He's too progressive. He's too this or too that. He's too radical. They're not listening to the people. That's why we're seeing these No Kings demonstrations. That's why we're seeing people fighting back. And that's why we're seeing so much support for my campaign, even in the face of the cynicism. I am encouraging folks to take a chance at pushing back on the cynicism, because what I'm speaking about, ending generational poverty, make sure that everyone can live a good life, make sure no one has to ration their medicine, make sure that the government we pay for works for us. Who opposes that? At the end of the day, we should all want a government to actually work for us and not Elon Musk. And I'm the only candidate offering a vision, offering real solutions, not just slapping at Trump, but naming the real change we need. And if we actually invest in organizing, not only will we win a Senate race, we can change things so that Kentucky isn't one of the poorest states in the country, one of the sickest states in the country. I'm tired of that. This is my family, and we deserve better than that.
I want to talk about the Republican field real quick. It's likely it's going to be Daniel Cameron or Andy Barr. If you were elected or you came out of the Democratic primary, you'd be facing one of those two.
Yeah.
Thoughts on who you think wins that? Is this Andy Barr's win at this point with the Trump endorsement? What's your take?
I think Andy Barr has a stronger path now. Daniel Cameron took a chance of trying to hitch his wagon to someone who was never going to be there for him, even at the expense of his own identity. And he's seeing what history has shown us over and over again. I'll leave that there because he knows what he's done. Andy Barr is doing a very similar thing. He's sold out. I mean, it's a shame the way that he has gone against his own self. He's on the record in years past speaking like he had some sense about diversity, understanding that government needs to work better, and now he's trying to protect the Epstein class as if we don't remember who he is. People are tired of that, and so whoever comes out of their primary, we will beat them handily. I think we run away with this race because people are so done with that, and they're seeing all of the chickens are coming home to roost. People know that this isn't Joe Biden causing them pain right now. They know it isn't Barack Obama. They see Donald Trump. They see this ballroom. They see this war in Iran. They see the cuts. They see the tariffs. They see it. And to try to tell the people of Kentucky, just focus on who's using what bathroom. Focus on immigrants. Hate immigrants instead of addressing their needs. Man, we are so done with that. And we will beat whoever comes out of their primary. It will be poetic, too.
We've seen what the Trump endorsement does do to primary races sometimes, though in Indiana, I don't know if you were paying attention, but the state Senate races, I mean, it was like 6 of 7 Trump-endorsed candidates defeated incumbent Republicans. Knowing that, do you not believe that that could have that sort of overarching impact on if you were elected or if you won the Democratic primary and face an energy like that in Kentucky where he won plus 31, what gives you reason to believe that that scenario will be different here?
Well, it's because I've took notes from Donald Trump, too. And we're actually working from a playbook that Trump has participated in that actually speaks to people. Andy Barr is a fraud. He doesn't like Trump any more than Mitch McConnell does. And Daniel Cameron is essentially saying he's going to sell whatever he can to be a part of the club, at the expense of his ancestors, at the expense of Kentucky. I could go on and on. But what I know is the people who supported Trump, and I'm not talking about the folks who were animated by hate and racism. That's a thing. That's real. There are a lot of people who supported Trump because they really want things to change. They really want the swamp to be drained. They want to stand up to big money corruption. They actually want someone who's going to make life more affordable for them and help create the jobs of the future for them. That's my platform. There's a populist message here, and it's something that Kentuckians are looking for, and it's why you've seen yards with Trump signs and Booker signs in them. I'm not the conventional candidate. I'm not a typical Democrat. They like to label me, but it's only because they're afraid of what we're speaking to. This is how we change democracy and make it real, not only in Kentucky, but in the country. We go at the heart of racism and inequity. We build coalitions, the power of the Rainbow Coalition. This is what the moment requires. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this.
Real quick before we go, I want to touch on a pretty big policy issue before we finish. You know, you've made it clear your stance is on Medicare for all. You know, 40 for 40. If you work 40 hours a week, you make a minimum $40,000 a year. What about housing? I was talking with the PVA here, the Property Valuation Administrator, and she talked about how there just are not enough homes being built, not just in Louisville, but across the country. And it's causing these property rates to go up and up. People just can't afford to buy a home. I think the average buying age now is 40 years old. What could you do if you were elected the next U.S. Senator of Kentucky to not just make living more affordable, but actually have more homes available on the lot to begin with?
Yeah, well, I've been very clear for years, housing is a human right, which means no one should be sleeping on the street in the wealthiest country in the world. And it requires a couple of things that happen simultaneously. One, we know that corporations and these big money folks from out of state buy up properties and make it harder for small developers to build, makes it hard for families to purchase homes. So we have to fight, and Senator Elizabeth Warren put legislation forward to make it easier for families to buy homes before they get swept up by these big money interests from out of state like we see here in Kentucky. We have to do that type of work to make housing accessible and affordable, which also includes putting more money in the pockets of the American people. We give tax breaks to folks like Elon Musk. We need to invest in the people of Kentucky, the people of this country, with policies like universal basic income and raising the living wage. But also, I'm a renter now. I've been a homeowner. I'm a renter now. And for a lot of people across Kentucky, rent is too damn high. And I've taken the pledge with the Kentucky Tenants Union. I believe in supporting a tenants' bill of rights to protect folks who are just trying to afford to get by. That is the type of leadership we need now. I've experienced homelessness. This is not anecdotal or academic for me. And I know what it feels like to have to choose between paying the rent and putting food on the table, because I've had to make that decision. And that's why I'll be the leader Kentuckians deserve.
Charles Booker, Democratic U.S. Senate candidate running for Mitch McConnell's seat. The primary is May 19th. Charles, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, brother. Always.
Thank you all for watching. Take care.